everything else, is the life force known as the light. I mean, the Bible refers to the light. And within this light are various other energies which have certain gifts. And these other energies have a frequency that is the same as all the colours. And turquoise actually is the same frequency as an energy called love and wisdom. Therefore, when you wear that colour, you attract it. When you wear black, you attract a colour that is the opposite to love and all the things we wish to bring to the earth. And it attracts another colour.
Well, hello there. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Hupanwo TV. This video is slightly related to the last one I did. That is the one about the Keshe Foundation and the possible disclosure of free energy, which Dr. Keshe is doing. Not in the sense of the contents of the video, but because of the activity in the comments box underneath that video afterwards. And I don't know how many of you watching this have actually looked at that comments box yet, but you can go and look at it now if you like. Basically there was a bit of a, what do I call it, argy-bargy, fisticuffs set to between me and another YouTube user. And I'll describe that in more detail in a minute. But first of all, I'll tell you what started all this off. It's a really silly thing, okay? But I'll tell you why this person was in the comments box and a bit more details about the background. This all started the other day when I put this tableau on Facebook. This is a poster for the next live David Icke show in Britain. And as you can see, David Icke is appearing next June, on the 18th of June 2016, at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, which is a big old theatre in London. It says here he's returning to the site of the Wogan show. Well, he's quite close to the old television centre, which is just up the road from there. As I explained actually if you watch my visit to the BBC video I did a little while ago. And as it says, this is launching his world tour event. David is travelling around the world again. He's going off to various other countries to present live lectures. Every year he says he's not going to do any more, and every year he does. So I don't think anything will ever stop him. I think when he dies, I think that's the only time he will stop doing these live lectures. And of course it is 25 years, I don't know if it's the exact day, but I mean it was 1992 that David appeared on Wogan. Yes, the famous Wogan interview, of which I played a brief clip in the opening titles of this video, and I'll play a little bit more in the closing titles. The entire video is not available anywhere, I don't think. I've not found it anywhere, but he's done a follow-up video called Wogan Then and Now. He was on a follow-up programme with Terry Wogan where they discuss it, and David puts him in his place quite nicely. I think it's a good bit of payback there for Terry Wogan giving him such a hard time in the original Wogan in 1992, or 1991 rather. He didn't say, "David, they're laughing at you, they're not laughing with you," and of course the audience laugh along. So basically I posted this on Facebook, and I've actually just got my tickets to this. Me and Astain, my girlfriend, we're both going to this. It's £45, which is I know it's a lot of money. That's quite a lot of money, but then the Shepherd's Bush Empire is not cheap, I imagine. 45, well, basically I couldn't afford that, but I phoned up my dad and I said, "Dad, what are you thinking of buying me for Christmas?" And he says, "I don't know." So I said, "Well, I was wondering if you could afford to pay for me and Astain, using her real name, to go and see David Icke next year." And he said yes. So thanks to my dad for paying for this. It was very, very appreciated. It's a great Christmas present for us, even though we're not actually going to have to enjoy our Christmas presents until the summer. It's very much appreciated to my father for doing that, so that's great. But anyway, as soon as I posted this tableau on Facebook, not because I was specifically trying to advertise David's event, but because I just wanted to let people know my status. This is what people do. I said, "Look, I'm going to this." And what ensued was people weren't nasty to me, but I was sucked once again into this phenomenon which I want to explore in this video, and that is whether being against David Icke has sort of taken on a kind of existential weight of its own. It's become cool. It's become trendy. And a lot of people are against David Icke without even knowing why. I don't know, but it's something I've noticed in the conference scene. Now, a lot of people first get into conspiracy theory, into spirituality, into paranormal stuff through reading David Icke. I mean, I did. I mean, David Icke was enormously influential on me during my period when I became conspiratorially aware. I don't like saying woke up or wake up because it's a bit. I suppose it sounds a bit. I don't know. It is like waking up, I suppose, in a way, but it sounds a bit demeaning to people who don't share my views. But it's funny that because you get these people who, even after that, even though David was influential on them too, they then start saying, "Oh yeah, I've got over that now. I've evolved beyond it, man. You know, I've kind of like got more sophisticated now, man. I'm not into all that David Icke stuff anymore." And this is the question I want to ask. There's a cool and trendy, almost anti-Icke cult in the conspiracy theory world, and it rears its ugly head all the time. And some people are a lot more unpleasant than the people who posted in the comments box on Facebook, or who posted in the comments on Facebook. And one of them posted in the comments box on my last video, and I'm going to discuss that now. Oh, right. Now, what happened after that? I posted that little tableau there onto Facebook, and about the same time I uploaded the Kesh video. So it's about 4 days ago. Today's the 31st. It's Halloween tonight, so I hope you're going out. I hope you have fun trick-or-treating. Anyway, a YouTube user by the name of Jack Reaper posted this on the comments box. "Didn't your boyfriend, David Icke, claim to be the son of God as well? Yet you suck his dick repeatedly." Right, that's 2 thumbs up, that bloody comment. Unbelievable. Some people have really stuck up for me here. Mr. Cutsy said, "Grow up, you weirdo." And Oya 1100 said, "You're disgusting and dirty-minded." So thanks. I want to thank those people for sticking up for me. Other people did as well, like Xylomet Outland did too, and Waffles. So thanks, guys. I appreciate that. But anyway, I replied to this person. I said, "You'd never say that to my face." And he said, "Bet you I would. Next time I see you, I will. Also, the question still stands. Didn't David Icke say the same thing, yet you think he's wonderful?" Now, basically, I went on to suggest that this person does meet up with me. I said, you know, because he went on and said this: "I'll shit in your mouth and wipe my bum on your t-shirt." So this is somebody at home on the internet typing abuse at me, typing obscene remarks at me. And so I said to him, "Well, come on, do you want to stand in front? Come and meet me. I want to have a man-to-man discussion about it." Now, I'm not suggesting that we're going to break the law in any way. I mean, I'm not going to do anything illegal. I just want to stand in front of this guy and say, "All right, you're not hiding it. You don't have the protection of anonymity on the internet now. Okay, you have to actually stand and look at me in the face and tell me these filthy comments you've said to me." And of course he won't, will he? Because like all these internet abusers, it's because it's anonymous. It's because you can communicate people. Well, you're cowering behind your keyboard and monitor. You don't have to. You never have to face. You never have to face the consequences of your actions. This is why the internet is such a paradise for bullies. And it's really horrible because people like this have driven has driven some internet users to suicide. Some people have actually become depressed and they've taken their own lives because of internet abuse, especially children, teenagers. But not this big ugly ex-hospital porter, Jack Reaper. Come and meet up with me. Stand in front of me. All right. I will not do anything to you that is against the law. I just want you to put your money where your mouth is. You man up. Stop being such a little gutless little internet bully, and come stand face to face with me. I don't think you will. But it's interesting, you see, because I know who Jack Reaper is. This is something. This is an interesting thing about it. Now, I've mentioned before about the abuse I've had online. I've mentioned before about Team Icke, which is a group of people who've been basically after me for 5 or 6 years. Ever since I've been online, they've been following me around, hurling abuse at me, posting nasty things about me. They've even set up their own website about me, and I know there's more than one person involved, but there's a ringleader. There's a guy who does it most of the time. He's the one who most commonly attacks me in this way, and it's taken me a long time to work out who he is, but now I know who he is. And I found out literally because of this. As I said about internet cyberbullies, these gutless little head kickers, as Steve Trubley calls them, they protect their anonymity fanatically, because it's their fortress behind which they can sit there in safety, sniping obscene remarks at other people. And the members of Team Icke have been absolutely, they've really worked hard to keep themselves safe, to keep themselves out of harm's way while they're attacking me and other people too, because they have attacked other people. They focus mostly on me though. And this person, I didn't know who he was. The ringleader of this group, I didn't know who he was for years, but now I've just found out. Now I know what some of you are going to say now. Alright, you're going to post comments saying, name him, shame him, Ben. Tell everyone who he is. Dox the bastard. He deserves it. Yes, he does deserve it. But I'm not going to dox him. Basically because for legal reasons. I have made a complaint to the police about this individual. I did several years ago actually, when he started calling me a child abuser. Because you see, the level of abuse progressed. It started off with, we got into a discussion about the moon landings, and then he started, oh, you're a loony, you're a conspiracy nut. This progressed to, you fat bald cunt, and eventually he started calling me things like I was a child abuser and things like that. He said that I had my daughter taken into care because I was basically I was a paedophile. That kind of treatment can't go unanswered, because you know as well as I do there are morons online who will just believe that. As soon as he says it, they'll believe it. They'll say, is he? Bloody hell, no, I never knew that. Oh, bloody bastard, bet he's a paedophile. You know, they will, and then that puts me in danger and my family in danger. This is, my daughter's now grown up, she's 20 years old, but this is before then. As I said, these guys have been following me around for years. I put in a complaint to the police. I've got evidence. I've taken screenshots of this actually, of this conversation on the Keshi video. And Jack Reaper is, which is not his real name, obviously, is a suspect. I mean, I've said that this, and the police have said that if they know who this person is, they will arrest them. I will be passing on the information I have about this person to the police. I'm not going to tell you who he is for that reason, really. This is a person, I don't know everything about him. I don't know where he lives precisely. Again, I'm not going to reveal any information I do find out in that respect, but I do know his name. I know his name, and I know I have met him before. He's somebody who I have met, and who knows me. very sad. I think he's a very sad, obviously very, very nasty, lonely and frustrated little man. I mean, see, after I suggested we have a meet-up and have a man-to-man discussion, he started saying, "Oh, you're threatening me. You're threatening me now. Oh, goodness me." He snipes obscene abuse at me from the impunity of the internet. And I suggest a good old-fashioned man-to-man, a kind of discussion involving mutual consent on both our parts. And he says, "Oh, he's threatening me now. He's threatening me." This is a man who said he's going to shit in my mouth and wipe his bum on my t-shirt. On my t-shirt, all right? This is the man who said that I sucked David Icke's dick, all right? Not very manly, are you, Jack? Not very honourable. Not much chivalry there, is there? Oh, so the net is closing on Team Droik. I hope to, as soon as it's possible legally, I'll give you an update on what's been going on there. But it's the reason he posted this stuff in the comments box was because he had seen what I posted on Facebook. This is how I managed to work out who he was, because there's only a certain number of people who could. I posted it in certain groups. I shared it with certain groups, and there's only a very small number of people who could actually see that poster once I put it on. Once I put it up. And I know that he's reacting to the fact that I put this poster up and I said that I was going to go and see David Icke's live lecture, and that's how. So in order for him to see that, I knew he had to be only one of about 20 or 30 people, and once I'd narrowed him down to that, I worked out who it was. Yep, he's let his guard down now. His shield has dropped. Droik, your time's up, mate. The party's over. Now, this is the thing. You see, it's because he doesn't like David Icke, and he's part of this anti-Icke cult. Because when I say I'm just going to go and see David Icke live, suddenly, he says these obscene remarks about me relating to my admiration for David Icke. In other words, I admire David Icke so much that I would perform a homosexual act on him. And it's always either or, isn't it? It's either you're either with him or against him. This is this binary logic you get from trolls and other people all the time. Seems to be regular. I've talked about this before. If you remember my Shield Squad video, I talked about this in more detail there. But it is if you don't hate David Icke and you're against him and you consider him the Antichrist, then you love him and you think he's the Son of God. Well, okay, I'm going to give you an exclusive, alright? This is a Hapanwo TV exclusive. For the first time on network television, or whatever you call the YouTube these days, I'm going to tell you exactly what David Icke is. Do you know what he is? Drum roll. David Icke is human. That's right. Roll up, read all about it. He's not a reptilian, he's not an MI5 agent, he's not a flawless messiah. He is human. David Icke is human. It's more precisely, he's a man, and this is part of why some people have turned against him. He's had marital troubles over the years, twice now. He's been married twice, and he's had problems with those marriages twice. And that abysmal trash pot, the Daily Mail, they wrote an article about David Icke. It's called, I won't show it to you, but it's called The Second Coming of David Icke, claiming he was the son of God, made him a national joke. So why is America now falling at his feet? Now, I'm not going to post a picture of this. Go to the description box. There's a link to a background article which has a link to this Daily Mail piece. But they posted this, and now all this stuff about David Icke's live tour in America in 2011. Someone commented underneath the article, whose name is Pamela Lee Richards. Now, Pamela Lee Richards used to be called Pamela Icke because she was David's wife, and they split up. Now, David doesn't talk much about his private life. He hasn't spoken publicly about this, but I know some people who are close to David, and I I've got the kind of story about what happened, and I'm not going to go into details either, all right, because it is part of David's private life. But basically, the relationship didn't work out. Pamela was interviewed again by the Daily Mail, and they did a big piece on with Pamela Icke, or Pamela Lee Richards as she's now called. Now, as I said, David Icke is human. He's also a man, and it's a well-known fact. It's a biological fact that if you deprive a heterosexual man of female company for a certain amount of time, it affects his thinking processes adversely. So why should David be blamed? If David had a bad relationship, why should he be blamed because he split up from his other wife? He didn't have a woman in his life. And so he met Pamela, who is very beautiful. She's very physically attractive. She's pretty. She's nice. She comes across as very sweet and nice. I don't know if she is. That's if you listen to her talking, she's got a lovely voice. She's got a very attractive voice, and there are several interviews with her online, and you can listen to them, and they're very and yes, she's a pleasant sounding person. There was an interview on News for the Soul. You can't get it now. It's not online now, but it's very interesting to listen to. You know, they met fatefully. There was these psychic predictions about David and Pam meeting, and they fell in love very quickly. It was very. It seems that according to Pam, it was a whirlwind romance, and of course that's always a bad sign if you can't launch a rocket into space on the booster stage alone. And to be in love, you have to be in love year after year after year. That's difficult unless you have a sense of companionship, a sense of affinity. It's got to be more than just hormones. Now David Icke, he met his first wife. Linda Atherton was his first wife. He met her and he married her in 1971, and he still loves her. They're still friends. In fact, a channeled message said that David is the roses and she's the rose bowl. Then he had his spiritual emergence crisis, and he got involved with another woman in Canada, and he writes about this in his book In the Light of Experience. Her name's Deborah Shaw, and she was in the first book, The Truth Vibrations, and she's changed her name now. She calls herself Mary Shawson. And she actually lives not far away from me, actually. She practices alternative medicine. And she lives there with David's daughter, Rebecca, who... This is the complicated situation. Again, this was in the papers all over the place. It was in the papers. David, because he was going through a spiritual emergence crisis. And this is something, again, it's a kind of Kundalini experience that some people have when they become spiritual. As David Icke himself said on stage, all friggin' hell breaks loose. You don't just walk along country lanes listening to nymphs playing trumpets. Everything all the shit comes from here and it goes in your face like that. And David, unbelievably, I mean, as an outsider, I mean, okay, it must have made sense at the time, but almost unbelievably from an outsider's point of view, he and his wife and this woman, Mary, M-A-R-I, it's spelled, Mary, they agreed to a menage a trois. Basically, Marie would move into David's house, and David had his wife Linda and their children as well. And they'd all live together in David's home on the Isle of Wight. And this is very similar. There was I don't know how many are familiar with Ayn Rand, the author. I've got a couple of books by Ayn Rand. She's an American author. She's not very well known outside America, but she's a well-known author and philosopher. And I find her very interesting. She's very sort of libertarian. She has this idea of anarchy and libertarian and things like that. And I'm very interested in that sort of thing. Even though, again, I don't agree with everything she says. But she had a similar situation because she was married. She had an affair with another man. He was married. And they agreed to a menage a trois as well. In both cases, it was a disaster. In David's case and in Ayn Rand's case. And the situation broke down. And by that time, Rebecca had been born. And David had to make this crushing decision regarding his involvement with his daughter, because basically it wasn't possible for him to be involved with both families, and he chose to stay with Linda and his other children and break contact from Mary and Rebecca. And I'm a father. I've got a little girl. Well, she's about the same age. She's about the same age as Rebecca now. She's in her early 20s too. But I can't begin. I can begin to imagine the emotional agony that must have caused David. And of course, the difference between me and David was, well, if I haven't broken contact with my daughter, I'm very close to my daughter actually. But in the course of David's, because of his fame, because of his infamy, in other words, everyone in the world knew about it, because it was on the centre pages of all the Sunday Murdochs. You can't get over that and move on completely from something like that. And these are the waters that Pamela was diving into. And there's links in the description box to Pamela's article as well, talking about her life with David. And again, it's the Daily Mail. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. I wish Pamela hadn't done that. I wish David wouldn't have anything to do with them either. I won't talk about that anyway. But basically, a lot of the aggravation that David gets is that he's in it for the money. He's a businessman. Yes, he is a businessman. What's wrong with being a bloody businessman? Did the Communist Party took power in the night? He's self-employed. I'm self-employed. He makes money. Yeah. What's wrong with making money? If you don't make money, you don't live. And this fact has launched 1,000 clickbait crusades by these self-appointed armchair Gowlighters, which I talk about in my film The Shill Squad. And I talked about that actually in my. If you look at my video, there's a link in the description box to this. It's my video reportage on David Icke's live show last year at Wembley. Or was it earlier this year? I can't remember. It was earlier this year. And this is this sort of thing. When you see David, you must think you've got to remember about David Icke. He does make a certain amount of money from what he does, and he's entitled to do that. But he doesn't live in a mansion. The house, which everyone thinks is a mansion, is actually a block of flats. There's 8 flats in that thing. It looks like a mansion because it's like this old-fashioned stone building, but it's actually a block of flats. And David only has one of the flats. It's a 1-bedroom flat. He drives a Proton Wirer. Proton Wire it's a kind of it's almost like a budget Toyota. Imagine that. It's a blue Proton Wirer. You see it in some of his films. He doesn't have a Bentley, he doesn't have a Rolls Royce, he doesn't have a Mercedes, he drives a bloody Proton Wirer. It's probably second hand. You must remember this guy had a career in television. This guy was a news reporter, he was a sports journalist, and do you know how much the BBC pays those people, those media whores? All David had to do was stick to the straight and narrow, and he had a lovely career in TV. And he could have made millions. And this awful article in the Daily Mail talks about the divorce settlement with him and Pamela. And the thing is, the anti-Icke brigade really has become very cultish. It's, as I said, is it cool to be anti-Icke? They carry out these almost ritual desecrations of David Icke in Facebook groups, in websites, on Twitter, and then they pour this emasculating scorn on anybody who so much as utters a kind word in relation to David Icke. This is what happened to me with this Jack Reaper person. Oh, where's it? You see, people said he made money at Wembley and things like that. Well, it costs a hell of a lot of money to hire these venues. I said these significant venues it's different from Dr. Stephen Greer, who had like a basement thing in London. I was saying that Greer probably overcharges for his events. David books the bloody Shepherd's Bush Empire. He books Wembley Arena. It's not cheap to do that. David is a story. It's classic riches to rags. And I should also point out, people say this about Ian R. Crane. Alright, there's several videos up claiming Ian works for the Rothschilds. He's an agent, he's a disinformer. Alright, and I talk to people all the time who say that about Ian. Look, I know Ian because Ian stays with me in Estaine whenever he does a show in Nottingham. He comes and stays at our place in Nottingham. That man lives in a caravan. Would he honestly? And one of them, he doesn't even own these caravans, by the way. They're on loan. He has 2 caravans. One's in Yorkshire, I think, and one's in the West Country. So he deals with this anti-fracking stuff. He has a car, which is quite an old car. I've seen his car. It's old and beat up. And he has a van as well, which he sleeps in the back of his bloody van sometimes. He doesn't even have a hotel when he's doing his gigs. Imagine how cold that must get in the winter. That's why he stays with us. When he stays with me in Estaine, he has a shower and a bath. He says, "Oh, that's nice to have. It's nice to have warm water," things like that. If he was working for the Rothschilds, he'd be living a very different lifestyle. But it doesn't matter. It's like David Icke is supposedly a rich man. Well, rich is a comparative level. Compared to me, he's rich, but then most people are rich compared to me. No, but he's a C-Reg proton wirer. But the thing about it is, right, let's face it, he drives his proton wirer. He lives in this 1-bedroom flat, but I think the anti-Icke cult would still claim David was making lots of money if he lived in a rolled-up newspaper in a septic tank. That's from Monty Python, isn't it? Yeah, 4 Yorkshiremen. Oh, it's... I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what to say to things like this. I really don't. It can't be easy to be a man in your early 60s without a girlfriend or a wife. And like I say, Pamela, she's very beautiful. She's charismatic. She comes across as intelligent, elegant. And in her interview, she comes across as empathic, very cheery, very sweet. I can well believe he'd fall for her. Especially if he's suffering from a touch of the le feu à midi, as the French say. I mean, that's the thing, David Icke is fallible. I'm not going to comment any further on his relationships. But, so what is it? What is it about David that makes people turn against him like this? I mean, it's really strange. I mean, I was... And they sometimes, like I say, pour scorn on me and abuse me even. Well, there's different levels of scorn. The ultimate is what Jack Reaper was doing, hurling abuse at me, calling me names, making obscene remarks about me because I won't join the mob, the truth mob against David Icke. The term truth mob is one I describe in my film, The Shill Squad. I won't join in with it, therefore. That makes me fair game for internet harassment. I mean, and there's different levels of this. There's others where people sort of like, which I talk more about in the Shill Squad video, where people become just post nasty, snide remarks at me or unfair criticisms and things like that. But there's another guy. I mean, there's another man. I actually met him about a couple of weeks ago. I met up with him. I don't see him very often. He's a good friend of mine. He's a conspiratorial researcher, and I'm very fond of him, and we get on well, and he respects me, and I respect him. But I think he also has a kind of he has a sense of prestige. He sees there's some prestige with being against David Icke, and I think he senses that I lack that because I'm not against David Icke. And it's funny because we were talking, and it was a good-natured conversation, like all our conversations are. We enjoy each other's company. And he said, and I mentioned David Icke, and I just mentioned I didn't mention the live show. I just said, "Oh, David Icke," and he said, "Ben," he said, "I had a little bet with myself that at some point today you would bring up David Icke." Yeah, I mean that's it. But I think a lot of the problem maybe is that, well, there's been... David has made some other blunders as well relating to the People's Voice, of course. There's the T-shirt business, which I talked about in the last film. And as I said before, that I think when people first start getting into David Icke's work, maybe they put him on too much of a pedestal. a pedestal which perhaps he doesn't deserve. I don't know. As I said, David Icke has been one of the most influential people in my life when I was becoming conspiratorially aware. I do feel I've moved on from David Icke. In a sense, I'm not so fixated on his books and things like that, and his interviews and things that I used to be. I haven't actually read some of his more newer books. His books all tend to have a lot of the same information in any way, actually. I still think they're worth reading. I think if I had some more money, I'd probably buy one, but I prioritise them a little bit lower. I don't feel the need to catch every radio and TV spot he's on. I don't. So I went and I listened to David Icke's live show last year. Well, somebody donated the money for me to go, and my dad has bought me the ticket as a Christmas present this year. But so it's very, very different. I went to David's first lecture in 2002. That was in Stoke-on-Trent. And then I got involved with the David Icke Forum. Now this is an interesting story, because the official David Icke Forum used to be a lovely forum, and I've made some good friends on there, and I'm still in touch with many of them. In fact, I met my girlfriend part indirectly through that forum. It was an event that was advertised on the forum we both went to. Now the thing about it is, at one point, once the forum got going, in 2007, there was the first of many forum meetups where we get together, and we got together in Glastonbury, all of us from the forum, or some of us, where we got together and we spent time together. Now it's interesting because the forum declined anyway. It became very fragmented. There were some scandals. There was controversial incidents. And I hardly ever log in there. I still have an account there. I pop in every now and again, but I don't really participate. Between 2007 and 2010, there were 4 or 5 of these meetups, and I attended all of them, I think. And we had some good times together. And then it all fell apart, like I said. But then, last year, there was another meetup. And it was at the Barge Inn. It was at the summer solstice party at the Barge Inn, which you know about for the Basis project. We were there camping there, and the weather was perfect. The sun was out. We met up with it. We had a lovely time. And what was interesting was this was a long time later. This was 8 years after the original forum meetup, the first forum meetup, and most of the people who were there at the first meetup were there at this one last year. It was almost all the same faces. Yet there was not a single kind word for David Icke from any of them. They'd all gone against David Icke. They decided, no, don't like him anymore. Now, there's a variety of reasons for this, but I think it all comes down to the fact that I think these people maybe expected too much of him. They decided. I mean, there's all this joke about him being the Son of God. I mean, I don't think no one took that seriously. But I think people did deify him slightly. Some people, they did see him perhaps more than what he was, and so when he turned out to have human frailties, they felt betrayed, or maybe they felt embarrassed. They felt that they'd misjudged David Icke and misjudged themselves, and that perhaps is that they kind of like, they put him on a pedestal. They thought he was so wonderful that when he turned out to have the same imperfections that all human beings share, they couldn't deal with it. They thought, no, it's not right. He shouldn't be like that. He should be perfect. And so therefore they turned against everything he does. It's interesting, because George Gurdjieff was in the sort of early 20th century. He was a famous Russian philosopher, and he was a spiritual philosopher. He rather like David Icke. He explored spirituality, and he was a lecturer. He had a lot of students. He was a teacher. He taught them his philosophy, and he was famous for being a complete and total bastard to them. there was one incident in which, I think I might have mentioned this in the previous film, where Gurdjieff calls up one of his students and he says, "Come over to my place, I've got to speak to you now." And this was when the weather outside was very unpleasant. It was very cold or very wet. So this guy struggles through the snow or the rain. He knocks on the door. Gurdjieff answers and he says, "What are you doing here at this time of night?" And the man says, "George, you phoned me up and asked to see me." And he says, "Oh yeah, don't worry about that, I can wait till the morning." And he slammed the door in his face. And I think, you know, maybe that people, maybe he did that because he didn't want his students getting too fond of him, because he was aware of this problem. He was aware of the guru, the guru factor, the fact that if you idolise somebody and you could become too fixated on them, it can take away your own personal power. So, you see, people had expectations of David. Maybe they were in a situation where their own self-esteem depended on him being divine. And now what we have now is, and then when they were portrayed, then it's the opposite. Their self-esteem now depends on David Icke being the Antichrist chicken fucker from hell. And the fact of the matter is, no, he's not either. He's neither good, he's neither bad. And I reiterate what I said at the Wembley. I mean, I said this in my report of the Wembley event, and I'll say it again. You will never find peace with yourselves until you accept David Icke as human. So, like him or loathe him, at least listen to what the man has to say. You don't have to agree with everything he says. If you don't agree with someone, discard it. And David says this himself. Discard it. Ignore it. But please, just don't become obsessed with your animosity towards him. If you fall out and you just feel you can't follow him anymore, then don't. But understand that it's because this is a natural part of human interaction, and if somebody else doesn't follow in your footsteps, don't antagonise them. Don't ridicule them, and certainly don't call them names in YouTube comments boxes. So, be sure that there will be a review of the event next year on this channel. I'm looking forward to it, I really am actually. Me and Ostaina both are. I don't apologise for looking forward to it. I'm interested to hear what he has to say, and I hope you will be too when I come back and tell you what he said. Thank you for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order.
Well, now, let me get this story right. The press claim that you claim to be the Son of God. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Yes, you see, the thing is that it's quite funny, really. You know, 2,000 years ago, had a guy called Jesus sat here and said these same things, you would still be laughing. It's really, really funny that we've not really moved on that much. When we think, it is not a vacuum. When we think, we create an energy field.